Most of us are taught a very specific playbook for building wealth. Work a job, store your spare cash in a bank account, and eventually use those savings to buy a house. To see why that model is failing, we have to look at what $10,000 used to buy. A century ago, that amount of cash represented a massive reserve of purchasing power. Take Miami Beach in the 1920s. Back then, this 1-acre plot of waterfront land cost exactly $10,000. Today, that same acre is valued at $15 million. This line chart tracks $10,000 of starting capital from 1920. While the land remained physically unchanged, the US dollar lost about 7% of its purchasing power every single year, continuously compounding for a century. That 7% decay is the best-case scenario. In nations like Argentina, fiat currencies routinely collapse entirely, forcing citizens to watch their life savings evaporate within a single decade. Saving physical cash is a mathematical guarantee of poverty. To survive, the middle class is forced to blindly buy physical assets just to outpace the constant melting of their money. For decades, residential real estate has been the universally accepted escape hatch. You trade your melting currency for a house and hope the property value keeps up with inflation. But physical property carries a heavy, recurring liability. In Florida, for example, homeowners face a 2% property tax on the value of their home every single year. This chart shows the impact. A homeowner effectively repays the government the entire original cost of their house every 36 years. The decay accelerates when adding 7% mortgages, mandatory insurance, and the physical maintenance required to keep a structure from falling apart. The traditional safe haven of a house is a high-friction liability. It bleeds your economic energy just as mercilessly as holding cash in a bank. To avoid property maintenance, investors often turn to liquid markets, stocks and commodities, as their next logical alternative. Historically, gold has returned about 12% a year, while the S&P 500 averages 15%. Both represent a massive upgrade over holding cash or a single residential home. However, these assets remain tethered to the physical world. They are heavily permissioned, tied to specific borders, and vulnerable to state control or banking counterparties. This is where the evolution of property moves into the digital realm. Bitcoin functions as frictionless digital capital. By digitizing the asset, Bitcoin removes the analog burdens. There is no physical maintenance, no property tax, and allows instantaneous global transfer without the need for a banking intermediary. Digitizing capital is the only structural way to preserve your economic energy outside the reach of state degradation and physical decay. The need for digital capital becomes urgent when we look at the macroeconomic horizon, the imminent rise of advanced robotics and artificial intelligence. Elon Musk describes an impending age of abundance. In this scenario, infinite machine labor drives the cost of utilitarian goods, everything from food to transportation, to near zero. If robots can manufacture infinite goods, write perfect code, and generate endless content, it forces us to reconsider what actually retains value in human society. In an era of infinite production, value will hyper-consolidate into the very few assets that machines physically and mathematically cannot replicate. This grid represents the 21 million hard cap of Bitcoin. It is the mathematical embodiment of absolute scarcity, a rigid limit that survives even as machine labor automates the rest of the economy. Financial sovereignty in the 21st century requires moving past analog liabilities. True preservation means securing a position in the final digital scarcity before the robots automate everything else.